I uncovered my wife's 15-year-long affair with her closest friend in the most unexpected way, when a series of text messages suddenly appeared on our smart TV. Feeling a surge of betrayal, I confronted her about the affair, informed our children, and initiated divorce proceedings. At 45 years old, I have been married to Amy, who is also 45, for the past 15 years. I hold an executive position at a prominent company, while Amy has dedicated herself to being a homemaker. In her younger years, she worked at a plant nursery, but after our marriage, she chose to focus entirely on managing our household. Together, we have two lovely daughters, Emma, who is 13, and Ella, who is 11. Our family life was blissful and filled with happiness until the devastating truth of Amy's infidelity came to light, all thanks to our smart TV. Just last week, we were celebrating our friend John's birthday. John had been living abroad for several years, so we decided to video call him at midnight to send our best wishes. The four of us, myself, Amy, John, and his wife, engaged in light-hearted conversations about work and life. Since John had no other plans for his birthday evening, we thought it would be nice to spend some time together virtually and unwind. John's wife suggested that we use Chromecast to stream the WhatsApp video call onto our TV, allowing us to relax comfortably and enjoy each other's company from our respective homes. Amy and John's wife are also good friends, and we used to socialize frequently when they were in the city. Without delay, Amy connected her phone to the TV using the already installed and active remote app. We settled in with some beers and snacks, immersing ourselves in the virtual celebration. After a while, Amy began to feel dizzy and fell asleep on the couch. Meanwhile, John and I continued our conversation, while his wife also dozed off. Approximately 15 to 20 minutes into the call, an unexpected internet fluctuation caused the connection to drop. In that moment, my wife's WhatsApp screen unexpectedly appeared on the TV. I was about to call John back when I noticed over 10 unread messages from someone named Lifeline, accompanied by a heart emoji. This immediately raised my suspicion since I wasn't expecting any messages from that contact. Driven by curiosity, I clicked on the profile picture and discovered it was her childhood friend, Matt. I had met Matt countless times since my marriage because Amy and Matt were close, they were neighbors and school friends. Amy had once mentioned that everyone around them, both in the neighborhood and at school, believed they were either dating or would eventually start a romantic relationship. However, that never materialized. According to Amy, she never viewed Matt as a romantic partner, and to my knowledge, Matt wasn't interested in women at that time as he was single. Initially, I wasn't too concerned about Amy's interactions with Matt because she had assured me that he wasn't interested in women. But then another message popped up from Matt saying, "Baby, I miss you." This message compelled me to investigate further. With hesitation, I opened Matt's chat conversation and discovered that Amy had been conversing with him throughout the duration of our video call. Unfortunately for Matt, Amy had unintentionally fallen asleep without bidding him a good-night kiss, which led him to flood her WhatsApp with messages. His messages read, "Why aren't you replying? Is everything okay? I can't sleep without your good-night kiss. I can't get over today's session. OMG, you were so good today." These exchanges clearly went beyond the boundaries of friendship. As I scrolled up the chat history, I was horrified to find that their conversations were laden with intimate and explicit content, including X-rated photos and nudes, which sent chills down my spine. I was completely numb, yet an overwhelming urge to uncover every detail about their relationship consumed me. I didn't know how to take screenshots of these conversations on the TV, so I resorted to using my phone to capture photos of the screen. After taking 4 to 5 pictures, I was done. My priority wasn't to collect evidence but to understand the depth of Amy's betrayal. I wanted to scream, cry, and release all my frustration, but I was at a loss for how to confront her. It was 2 a.m., and I was already exhausted from drinking numerous beers and a few shots of scotch. I barely had the energy to move or even think clearly. I continued scrolling through the chat, watching my failed marriage unravel before my eyes on the large screen. Every detail of Amy's infidelity was laid bare, including our own intimate moments, which she repeated to Matt to compensate for his feelings. This revelation filled me with disgust. I desperately wanted to know when all of this had started, so I kept scrolling, but the conversation history seemed endless, delving deeper the more I read. By the time I reached the end, Matt's messages had ceased, leaving a haunting silence in the house. Feeling unsettled, I grabbed a cushion nearby to reassure myself that I wasn't dreaming or hallucinating. I continued to scroll mindlessly when Amy suddenly awoke from her slumber. Her eyes were wide with shock as she saw her secret life displayed on the TV screen. She quickly snatched the remote from my hand and turned off the TV, then grabbed her phone and disconnected it from the TV. I stood there, completely stunned, watching as she opened her WhatsApp chat, glanced through her lover's messages, and then closed the app with a deep sigh, a clear sign of surrender. She reached out and held my face in her hands, moving closer to me. "Baby, I can explain. Please listen to me," she pleaded. I looked back at her and responded, "Sure, please explain." Her reaction took me by surprise. I had expected her to react with anger or denial, not to seek understanding. If this confrontation had happened in the afternoon instead of the middle of the night, I might have reacted differently, but at that moment, I was barely conscious due to the alcohol and the shock of the revelation. "Damn it, explain," I repeated, frustrated and seeking answers. Amy seemed at a loss for words. She murmured something incoherent before stammering, "Actually, I interrupted her, saying, "You know what, don't try to explain right now. You know you're in deep trouble." Limping towards the bedroom, I shut the door in her face after she attempted to speak again. I passed out shortly after, overwhelmed by the situation. The next morning, I awoke with a heavy head and vague memories of the previous night. I went out of my room to get a bottle of water, my throat parched. Seeing me approach, Amy rushed towards me and the painful memories of last night came flooding back. She tried to embrace me, but I pushed her away, asking her to back off. She retreated, her eyes filled with tears and a look of innocence. "I misunderstood," she pleaded, but I ignored her and headed to the refrigerator for a drink. She continued to nag, insisting that I was overreacting and that Matt was just a friend with no physical relationship, only flirtatious chats. Her weak excuses only irritated me further. I couldn't contain my anger any longer and shouted, "Really? Who sends nudes to male friends? What does sexting even mean? Wasn't he supposed to be uninterested in women? How did he become interested in your private parts?" It was a Saturday morning, and fortunately, our children were away at my parents' house for the week to enjoy their summer vacation. I stared at Amy, demanding an explanation. My mind was in a terrible state, teetering on the edge of collapse. I wanted to get to the root of the issue, even though I knew it would shatter me completely. I wanted Amy to confess every detail of her betrayal, but every time she opened her mouth, I felt nauseous. I clenched my teeth, urging her to speak, but then silenced myself when she tried. I don't know what I was doing. I know I acted unreasonably, but how else could someone react upon discovering a 15-year affair that made their entire married life a sham? I thought to myself. I gulped down the entire bottle of water in one go and then demanded that she confess everything from the beginning or else I would expose her to the world, including our daughters. Though they were young, I believed they were mature enough to understand the truth. Amy begged me not to disclose this information to our daughters, fearing that they would hate and disrespect her. However, I was resolute. I refilled the water bottle, grabbed a few beer bottles, and retreated to my room, locking the door behind me. I sat down in front of my laptop, staring blankly at the screen for over an hour, completely unsure of what to do next or who to turn to. The truth was eating away at me from the inside, making me feel suffocated. After finishing the beer, I left my room, grabbed my car keys, and drove to my in-laws' house, which was about 30 minutes away. My father-in-law answered the door with a warm smile, but upon seeing my distressed state, he immediately sensed something was wrong. He called my father, who quickly came out of their bedroom to sit me down. I was sweating profusely and my heart was racing with anxiety as I recounted everything that had happened. Midway through my explanation, Amy suddenly knocked on the door and stormed into the house. She demanded that I leave immediately, insisting that our issues were private and didn't involve her parents. The following hours were filled with intense emotional turmoil and rage. I berated her for cheating on me for 15 years, while she dismissed it as a mere casual relationship that held no significance for her. Gradually, she began blaming me for manipulating her parents against her, and I stood my ground, defending myself. My in-laws took my side, chastising Amy for her actions. The entire weekend was a blur of drinking and passing out, my body numbed by alcohol as I tried to cope with the stress. On Monday, I trudged to work feeling groggy and utterly exhausted. At the office, I searched for divorce lawyers online and scheduled an appointment with one. When I returned home, I noticed that some of Amy's belongings were missing. She must have come back while I was away, packed some of her things, and left without my knowledge. I didn't bother to check on her, but shortly after, she messaged me saying he was staying at a hotel to give me time to cool off. She also sent messages pleading for forgiveness and promising to end her relationship with Matt. It had been a week since that fateful night, and today was Friday. The week dragged on slowly, and the weekend seemed to stretch even longer. I had an appointment with a lawyer scheduled for the following Monday. In the meantime, I had been reading countless Reddit stories in search of solutions to my predicament, but my situation felt uniquely complicated. My main concern was how to handle our daughters, how to confront them, or whether I should even bring this up with them at all. **update***. Thank you all for your thoughtful advice and support. I apologize for not updating everyone sooner, but I have connected with some of you through private messages and comments. It has been 6 months since my initial post, and the journey has been nothing short of tumultuous. I met with the lawyer on that Monday and shared my concerns regarding our daughters. The lawyer advised me to approach the situation delicately, suggesting that I subtly inform the children about the separation without delving into the painful details to avoid causing them psychological trauma. Additionally, given Amy's unemployment and the nature of her affair, I have a strong case for obtaining full custody. During this time, my parents contacted Amy to arrange for the kids to come to their home. Unaware of the full extent of the situation, Amy returned home with the children while I was lying drained on the couch after a stressful meeting with the lawyer. I avoided discussing anything in front of the girls and secluded myself in my room. When Amy entered the bedroom, I insisted that she confront the girls about her affair. She began sobbing and begging for forgiveness, expressing fear that the girls would hate her. I guess they should, I thought to myself. She deserves to be despised after cheating on her family for 15 years. The lawyer informed me that divorce papers would be sent to Amy within a week, giving me time to reconcile with the children and my parents. I informed Amy of my decision to divorce her, and she reacted as if I had suddenly changed my mind. She claimed that the divorce would traumatize the children, which made me question where her maternal instincts had been all these years. I made it clear that my decision was final and gave her a 1-week ultimatum to address the situation with the girls, otherwise, I would reveal the truth to them. Exhausted, I grabbed my pillows and collapsed on the bedroom couch. Throughout that week, I maintained a strict routine, leaving the house early in the morning and returning late in the evening. As the weekend approached, Amy cried and wailed through the night, sometimes so intensely that it woke me up. While I felt a pang of pity for her, I couldn't understand how she could sustain this deception for so long. She had multiple opportunities to end things with Matt but chose to continue their affair, leaving all our private conversations and my deepest insecurities exposed to him. Finally, on Friday evening, Amy informed me that she had devised a plan to confront the girls. The next day, on Saturday, after breakfast, she told the children that I had received a job transfer to a different country and that I would be moving out for a few years. I was taken aback as my daughter stared at me in confusion. I sarcastically asked Amy if this meant I needed to leave the house, to which she rolled her eyes and sighed, urging me to stop talking. She suggested that if the house was too big for the 3 of us, we could move to her parents' house and later find a smaller place. The girls were puzzled by her explanation. They were young but perceptive enough to sense she was hiding something. My younger daughter told Amy that her story didn't make sense, while the elder daughter directly asked if we were getting divorced. I gave Amy a stern look, urging her to speak the truth. She sighed and broke down in tears. The girls looked to me for answers, and I admitted that they were correct. We were indeed getting a divorce. I explained that Amy and I no longer felt compatible with each other. My elder daughter voiced her suspicion that I might be having an affair, which caused Amy to cry even more. She held her mother's hand and asked if I was cheating on Amy. Instead of clarifying the situation, Amy simply hugged her, hoping to alleviate the tension. The girls gave me disgusted looks, and I felt enraged by Amy's manipulative behavior. I was astonished at how she had turned the situation around. Determined to expose her, I told my daughters everything, how I had discovered the affair and what Amy had been doing all those years. Naturally, I omitted the explicit content, but the truth was clear. Amy shouted at me for going back on my word, arguing that I had given her the opportunity to explain to the girls. She accused me of not supporting her when she tried to tell them about my supposed job transfer. The situation spiraled out of control, and I decided it was time to end Amy's manipulation. I called my parents and my in-laws, urging them to come over immediately. They lived about 25 to 30 minutes away, and within an hour, all 4 of them were at my house. That hour was a nightmare I would never forget. My daughters were crying and clinging to me as Amy desperately tried to justify her actions. She even went so far as to portray me as a liar, manipulating the girls against me. However, I stood my ground and revealed that I had photos of her conversations with Matt. My parents and in-laws were shocked to witness the situation firsthand. I briefly recounted the incident, and everyone despised Amy for her deceitful actions. She continued to sob and begged for forgiveness. For a moment, I felt pity for her, seeing her in such a distressed state. However, instead of taking responsibility for her actions, she continued to portray me as the villain in front of our daughters. She could have simply explained that our love had faded, but she refused to accept any blame. Now, her ugly truth was exposed in front of everyone, including our daughters. I made it clear that we were moving forward with the divorce and that the girls would be staying with me. I requested that her parents take her away, and even the girls urged her to leave. My parents decided to stay for a few weeks to help us cope. It was indeed a challenging time, but we managed to come out stronger. I enrolled all three of us in therapy, and our mental state has significantly improved. The divorce proceedings are ongoing, with Amy contesting a share of my house, a claim I'm fighting because she doesn't deserve any part of it. Surprisingly, she didn't contest the custody of the children, which clearly showed her priorities during and after the confrontation. True to her word, Amy promised to sever all ties with Matt. However, after moving in with her parents, she was caught visiting Matt's house again. Her siblings confronted and humiliated her to the point where she had to leave Matt's house. Her parents also reprimanded Matt and informed his own parents, leading them to cut off all property rentals Matt was receiving. They urged him to become financially independent. Meanwhile, Amy found employment as a sales agent in a showroom. I no longer think about her. Instead, I focus on raising my daughters and providing them with the best possible life. Please wish me luck as I move forward to the next chapter of my life. Story 2 I discovered my 4-year-old son's inappropriate behavior at preschool, which ultimately revealed my wife's affair. I caught her on a hidden camera and decided to file for divorce. I am a 32-year-old man married to my wife, who is 31, for 4 years. We have a 4-year-old son who attends preschool. I work long shifts as the primary breadwinner, while my wife is currently between jobs because she didn't like her previous one. At least she's home to care for our son. Recently, however, we were called into a meeting at our son's preschool. The teachers informed us that he had been exhibiting inappropriate behavior over the past 3 weeks, such as trying to kiss girls, lifting their skirts, and touching their buttocks. Both my wife and I were stunned and struggled to explain this behavior, as I am always mindful to behave appropriately around our child. We are strict about the programs he watches and ensure a parent is always present during his visits or playdates. As far as I knew, the only other place he could have been exposed to such behavior was at school, but the teachers couldn't explain why he was the only student displaying these issues. They concluded that he must have been exposed to this behavior at home and had also attempted to address it with him, but felt that parental intervention was necessary. We spoke to our son about his behavior and decided to consider therapy if the behavior continued. Despite this, I couldn't shake the unsettling revelation and decided to have a private conversation with my son to uncover the cause behind his actions. I waited until my wife was away and asked him about his behavior, trying to maintain a sense of innocence during our conversation. He told me that an uncle who frequently visited while I was at work had acted inappropriately toward his mother. In his 4-year-old mind, he believed that this behavior was acceptable because his mother never reprimanded him. This confession piqued my curiosity, and it sounded suspiciously like an affair. I asked him a few more questions. How often did the uncle come over? What did they do together? How long did he stay before I returned from work? I was furious. I worked tirelessly to support our family, putting in long hours and getting barely enough rest, while my wife was spending her time cheating on me instead of seeking another job or being more present with our son. Determined to catch her in the act, I devised a plan. I pretended to take a trip to visit my parents with our son, telling Amy that we would stay for a few days to give her some free time since she had been our son's primary caregiver after quitting her job. She didn't object or suspect anything, so I packed up and made the trip seem genuine. I set up a camera in the living room and left with my son, having no intention of actually visiting my parents. A few hours later, our car pulled up outside our house, and the man exited the vehicle. Using the camera in the living room, I watched in horror as my wife and the man began making out in the living room. I was enraged, devastated by the sight of my family falling apart and heartbroken for my son. I recorded the video and sent it to her parents, her brother, and other close family members. Many of them reacted in shock, some pretending to be unaware of what was happening and questioning whether someone had created a fake video. Her parents called me, begging me to forgive Amy and attempt to mend our relationship. They insisted that they had never raised their daughter to behave this way and that there must be a reasonable explanation for her actions. They promised to talk to her and get to the bottom of things. On the other hand, her brother was rightfully angry and expressed his support for whatever course of action I chose to take. Amy also reached out once she saw the video, begging and pleading for forgiveness. She claimed that she had been coerced and couldn't resist her actions anymore. She admitted to recognizing her mistakes and didn't want to lose her family. She insisted that she was willing to do anything to regain my trust. By that time, I had already lost faith in our relationship. I was devastated that I had missed all the signs of her infidelity and that she had been deceiving me in a house I had provided for. Even worse was the realization that our 4-year-old son had been exposed to such inappropriate behavior. I resolved to separate from her, asking her to leave the house since I was the one who paid for and maintained it. It was only fair. I also informed her that our relationship was over, as I couldn't continue being with someone who lied to me and disrespected our marriage. She refused to leave and wouldn't accept that we were done, insisting that we could work things out for the sake of our son. I told her that if she didn't leave peacefully, I would involve the authorities, and she would never see our son again. This ultimatum finally made her realize the gravity of the situation, and she left. I filed for divorce through my mediator, planning to keep the house and the car. We had already been keeping our finances separate, and I intended to negotiate no alimony because of the circumstances leading to the end of our marriage. I also aimed to secure at least 50% or more custody of our son. I had no issue with co-parenting, and I planned to closely monitor what my child was exposed to. I intended to use Amy's actions against her in the divorce proceedings to ensure I got what I deserved. My lawyer informed me that the ball was in my court, and I couldn't wait to be free from this nightmare and move forward with my life.